The asteroid slams into the central Pacific with an energy release equivalent to roughly 60 million megatons of TNT. That is more than 1 million times greater than the largest nuclear weapon ever detonated. The Pacific Ocean, despite being miles deep, barely slows it down. The water instantly vaporizes into a colossal column of superheated steam, stretching dozens of miles into the atmosphere. In less than a second, both the asteroid and millions of tons of ocean are gone, transformed into energy, heat, and chaos. A crater does not form like it would on land. Instead, a temporary cavity miles deep opens in the sea, exposing the ocean floor and punching directly into the Earth's crust. That rupture triggers an earthquake so powerful it exceeds magnitude 12, an intensity no human structure is designed to survive. Surrounding tectonic plates tremble, sending pulses of seismic energy across the globe. As the ocean collapses back into the cavity, an enormous wall of water is ejected outward. The initial wave is more than 1 mile high, an unstable tower of sea surging away in every direction, and it's not just one wave, it is the birth of a tsunami complex so powerful it dwarfs anything recorded in human history. Simultaneously, shock waves explode outward through the air. These atmospheric pressure waves travel faster than the speed of sound, flattening everything in their path. Ships are shattered like toys, birds are instantly killed mid-flight, the winds they carry are stronger than any tornado ever recorded, and they hit hundreds of miles away within minutes. From above, a monstrous plume rises, superheated steam, rock vapor, and asteroid debris reaching the stratosphere. It does not simply drift, it spreads rapidly, carried by high-altitude winds, setting the stage for what is coming next, a planet-wide crisis. The impact is over in seconds, but the consequences are only beginning. With the asteroid gone and the Pacific still heaving from the blow, the devastation starts to spread outward in terrifying waves, both literal and atmospheric. The mega tsunami, born from the impact, a traveling mountain of water, is now surging across the globe. Though the wave lowers as it moves away from the point of impact, it still towers over coastlines thousands of miles away. Within just a few hours, it reaches the shores of North and South America, Southeast Asia, Australia, and island nations caught in the crossfire. Some waves still rise hundreds of feet high, swallowing harbors, cities, and entire regions in minutes. The ocean becomes a weapon, it tears through ports, sends freighters crashing into inland buildings, and turns cars, trees, and homes into projectiles. Coastal populations have little to no warning. Communications are down. Power grids have already begun to fail under the strain of the seismic shock, and satellites knocked off course during the impact are barely functioning. Aid is impossible. Roads are gone, airports are underwater, entire regions are cut off. But what follows from above might be even worse. The massive plume of material launched into the upper atmosphere during the impact has begun to fall back, but it has not come down gently. As billions of particles re-enter Earth's atmosphere, they ignite. What begins as a distant flicker becomes an all-sky rain of fire. Every continent sees it, tiny blazing specks, streaking downward in the thousands. The heat from these returning fragments doesn't just light up the night, it raises atmospheric temperatures so suddenly and violently that dry landscapes, grasslands, and even forests burst into flames before anything touches them. By the end of the first day, global fires rage across multiple continents. From the Amazon basin to Siberian forests, from Australian bushland to the grass plains of North America, the land itself begins to burn. Smoke columns reach into the stratosphere, mixing with volcanic ash from eruptions triggered earlier by the planetary shock. The air is turning black. Volcanoes, long dormant or merely rumbling, have been jolted awake. The energy from the asteroid impact destabilized pressure points in Earth's crust, setting off a chain reaction. Mounts like Indonesia's Tambora, Alaska's Redoubt, and the Pacific's own Ring of Fire begin erupting almost simultaneously. These aren't small eruptions, they are colossal, spewing sulfur dioxide, ash, and rock into skies already choked with soot. Each eruption further dims the sun and cools the planet, and in the oceans, shockwaves from the asteroid continue to echo. Underwater, landslides and tectonic disturbances create secondary tsunamis. Currents shift. Oceanic conveyor belts, which help regulate global climate, begin to falter. Ecosystems, both above and below water, are collapsing, fast. Coral reefs bleach instantly under the heat and sediment. Fisheries that once fed millions are obliterated. Within less than 24 hours, the world is barely recognizable. Fires rage, skies darken, and coasts have vanished. But this is only the beginning of a deeper crisis, one that will not just reshape cities and countries, but the entire global climate for years to come. By the time the fires die down and the last tsunamis fade, Earth is already entering a new phase, one far quieter but even more deadly. Without much sunlight getting through, the thick cloud of soot, ash, and aerosols now circling the planet, global temperatures start to plummet. What was once a world of heat and chaos turns cold and dim. This is the beginning of what scientists call an impact winter. Within just a few weeks, crops around the world begin to fail. Farming regions that once produced enough food to feed millions are now covered in frost or drowning in darkness. In tropical zones where temperatures used to hover around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, the mercury struggles to reach 40. In temperate regions, snow falls in what should be summer, and in the northern and southern extremes, the cold is bone deep and endless. Rain no longer falls like it used to. Instead, acidic snow and freezing rains sweep across continents, carrying with them toxins pulled from the atmosphere. The chemicals released by the impact, like sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, and nitrates, fall back down to the surface, poisoning freshwater sources and damaging what little vegetation survives. Rivers turn brown, lakes develop oily films. Even groundwater becomes unsafe in many regions. With no functioning agriculture and wild ecosystems collapsing, mass starvation takes hold. Livestock perish in the cold, crops rot or never sprout. Supermarket shelves, if they still exist, are permanently empty. Food becomes a form of currency. Some countries with stored grain reserves last a little longer, but within a few months, most of the global food supply is gone. Cities become silent, not because of tsunamis or fires anymore, but because of hunger. The oceans don't fare any better. Without sunlight, phytoplankton, the base of the marine food chain, virtually disappears. Coral reefs are already dead from the initial shock, but now fish populations crash completely, ocean temperatures fall, entire ecosystems vanish beneath the waves, survivors are scattered in bunkers, in caves, in underground shelters, small pockets of humanity huddle together, trying to wait out the cold. Nations have fractured, governments have collapsed or gone dark, most forms of communication are lost, power grids are useless, fuel is scarce, the internet as we knew it is long gone. People begin relying on local knowledge, community survival tactics, and sometimes brutal decision-making. And still, the skies remain dim. The once familiar blue has been replaced by a permanent gray shroud. Stars can rarely be seen. The moon glows faintly through the haze. And the sun? It's more of a pale disk now, barely warming the surface, offering little light and no comfort. The global climate has completely shifted, wind patterns change, rainfall stops in some areas and floods others. What used to be fertile land becomes tundra. Regions once too dry for farming now receive too much acidic rain. Coastal areas that somehow survive the waves are now too cold or too contaminated to support life. Months stretch into the first year, and it becomes painfully clear this is not a temporary disaster. This is a planetary reset. The climate system is broken. The biosphere is unraveling. And for the survivors left beneath this altered sky, the question is no longer, how do we fix this, but how do we endure what comes next? Years pass. The thick veil of dust and ash begins to thin, slowly settling into oceans, forests, and ice caps. Bit by bit, sunlight starts piercing through the clouds. Again, but the world it returns to is unrecognizable. Landscapes have shifted, ecosystems have collapsed, and human civilization, once spread across every continent, has been reduced to scattered remnants. As temperatures begin to rise again, this time due to the buildup of greenhouse gases like water vapor and carbon dioxide, the planet enters a new phase. Some regions experience extreme heat, while others face relentless storms or permanent drought. The climate doesn't return to what it was, it transforms into something unstable and unpredictable. In the oceans, life is trying to restart. New microbial life forms begin to appear, feeding on chemicals released during the catastrophe. On land, plants adapted to low light and harsh, cold conditions start to reestablish themselves in small patches, but species diversity is a fraction of what it once was. For the few surviving humans, rebuilding is slow and uncertain. Knowledge has been preserved in some places, but resources are scarce. Cities are buried, power infrastructure is useless, and transportation is nearly impossible. Those who remain rely on old-world tools and ingenuity to grow food, filter water, and survive. Generations later, The event will be remembered not as a singular disaster, but as the boundary between two Earths, before and after. Just as the Chicxulub impact ended the age of dinosaurs, this asteroid has ended the age of global civilization. Earth continues, life returns, but nothing is the same. And above it all, the sky remains a haunting reminder, beautiful, vast, and always carrying the possibility that one day it could happen again.